Okay, welcome back. Last time we went through the Pokemon of Generation 3, that being Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, and today we're making our way into the Sinnoh region for Generation 4, Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. So starting off with normal types, I am left with, honestly, the decision between 4, and those 4 are Ambipom, Porygon Z, Lopunny, and Staraptor. And Staraptor, honestly, is also competing for flying type. And basically it comes down to, hey, what is the second choice between flying and normal? Because that way I basically just end up going, hey, whichever one doesn't win there just moves on into, well, Staraptor takes one place and, you know, the other one goes through from there. However, I think I do have to go with Staraptor for normal type. I mean, I might shuffle it around later when I get to flying type, but Staraptor is the best Route 1 bird, like, bar none. I think, I mean, obviously, I would like to note, Gale Wing's Talonflame in Gen 6 is also absolutely busted, but, like, you get Intimidate with Staraptor, you get Aerial Ace, you get Steel Wing, you get U-Turn, you get Close Combat, you got so much stuff to work with. You get Brave Bird. Honestly, imagine if Staraptor got access to Gale Wings in Gen 6. Because honestly, Talonflame with Gale Wings was scary enough. If Staraptor had it, it was over. Okay, moving on to Fire type. This is a very easy choice. It's Infernape. Like, I like Magmortar a fair bit. I'm okay with Rotom Heat, and obviously Heatran is well, it's a legendary, so we aren't counting it. So yeah, the answer is Infernape. It is just fantastic. It's so fast. It can honestly take hits surprisingly. It takes hits a little bit better than I expect it to. It's still not a tank by any means, but it hits hard, it hits fast, and also, it just looks super cool. I don't really have a whole lot to say about Infernape without rambling on about other topics, but yeah, it is easily one of my favourite fire Pokemon, and as a result, it won't be considered for favourite fighting type, but it would also probably win for that as well. Moving on to water type. Okay, so water type, obviously Fion, Manaphy, and Palkia are not included because they are legendaries. Well, legendaries and mythicals, I suppose. Rotom Wash is okay. I do quite like Rotom Wash. And I do like... Also, I think I like all of the Rotom forms, but none of them are my favourite. Shellos... Shellos and Gastrodon, I think they both look cool. I remember the first time I saw the West Sea. I think it's the West Sea. Yeah, the pink ones are the East Sea. The blue ones are the West Sea. The first time I saw the West Sea versions, I genuinely thought they were a shiny, and I was so disappointed when they weren't. However, I think it's also a great way, because, in a sense, the Shellos and Gastrodon, in a way, they kind of were one of the first kind of alternate regional forms, even though it's, you know, just two sides of the same region. I think that's really cool. However, it's not going to be them. Bibarel, I think Bibarel is kind of cool. It's a great Pokemon for using HMs, and honestly, it is a better Pokemon than I think I ever gave it credit for. I'm just going to be totally honest here. Finneon and Lumineon did not enter the conversation. They did not enter my mind as something I was genuinely considering. Same with Mantike. I like Mantike because it evolves into Mantine, but just by itself it's an annoyance, and why is it so hard to catch? Like, I'm pretty sure Mantike is as hard to catch as Dialga or something. It is kind of insane. I think Chatot's the same way. Okay, so, realistically this narrows it down to Floatzel and Empoleon. And I do quite like Floatzel, but Empoleon is so cool. I love Empoleon. Like, it's probably my least favourite of the 3 starter Pokemon on Final Evolutions in Gen 4, but at the same time, I've always thought Empoleon looked super cool. Like, a steel water-type Emperor Penguin is fantastic. Like, big fan of Empoleon, even though I do like it less than Infernape and Torterra. But honestly, huge fan of Empoleon. Okay, moving on to Grass type. And I feel bad because Leafeon isn't going to be represented. I do like Leafeon. I wish it was a bit more accessible. And by that I mean, by the time you can get one, it's probably already past the level where it would learn anything. And in Gen 4 itself, it's not learning Leaf Blade until like level 73 or something, which is definitely unfortunate. Tangrowth, I think, is kind of cool. Carnivine, I wish Carnivine had an evolution or something. Carnivine is a Pokemon that I remember first seeing it and was like, what the hell is this thing? And then I was pleasantly surprised by it, but I've never really sat down and used one in a playthrough, but I wish it would have an evolution or something. Something to make it kind of relevant. Honestly, kind of same with Cherrim. And Abomasnow at least got a Mega Evolution. Yeah, it's not going to be Wormadam. Even for bug types, it's not going to be Wormadam, let's be real here. So, now the question is, Torterra or Roserade? Torterra or Roserade? It's Torterra. It's Torterra because I think Roserade absolutely just clears everything in Poison type for me. And also, for the first and likely only time in this, we're going to have all 3 starters represented for my favourite Fire, Water, Grass as Pokemon of the region, and I think that is kinda neat. So Torterra is fantastic. It's obviously very slow. Well, it's pretty slow, but it's bulky. It's got good attack stats. Naturally learns Earthquake as soon as it evolves, and also it evolves at level 32. Whereas these two, Infernape and Empoleon, you're waiting until I think level 36. So you get Torterra a bit earlier. Yeah, as well, which is huge, and also it just looks super cool. Like, Torterra is a Pokemon that it takes a little bit of getting. I'm not the biggest fan of Grottle, but I really like Turtwig, and I love Torterra. However, which one will win for my favourite starter Pokemon? Well, that'll be coming up in a bit, won't it? So, moving on to electric types. Honestly, Gen 4 is not the best for electric types in my personal opinion. Also, Ukulele Pichu is from Pokemon Ranger Guardian Signs. I'll be totally honest, I never played Guardian Signs. I played Pokemon Ranger and Pokemon Ranger Shadows over Almia, or whatever it was called. I played the first two, but I never played Guardian Signs, and I really want to. So, at some point I'll do that. And the spiky-eared Pichu was a special one for an event in Heart Gold Soul Silver that would allow you to get Celebi, I think. Or something like that. I think those two things were connected, and they would show you, like, how... I think it was, like, how Giovanni left and why Silver was so mad all the time. Okay, so... Rotom, I think, is kind of cool. Magnezone... I kind of appreciate that Magnezone exists, but I like Magneton a lot more. Pachirisu, I think, is very cute. Pachirisu is cute, but I've never really sat down and used one. I know that someone once won the competitive world championships with that on the team, though, so that's kind of cool. I want to give a special mention to Luxray, because I love its shiny. Because, I know, it's a simple but really effective shiny. However, I'll be honest, I've never really... okay, Luxray was a Pokemon that, much like pretty much everyone else, I had one on my team the first time I played Gen 4. Because, you know, there's the meme of, oh, I'm going to play Gen 4 differently this time, and it's still Starter, Staraptor, Luxray, Garchomp, Lucario, and then, like, a Floatzel or something. But... I don't know, Luxray is a Pokemon that, especially in Gen 4, I realized isn't very good. And it also gets, like, its best stab move that... Okay, it has a good physical attack stat, but the best move it has for that is Spark in Gen 4. Oh, I mean, even with its lower special attack stat, I imagine Thunder is still probably better. Like, you get Spark really early on, then you get Thunder Fang way later, and Spark is just better than Thunder Fang. And other than that, you just get Crunch, really. But my answer is Electivire, because one, it's the evolved form of Electabuzz, and even though I do like Electabuzz over Electivire, I want to mention that just real quick. I think Electivire is super cool. It gets a good variety of moves. Like, it gets all the elemental punches, which is always good. I love the elemental punches. That's some of my favorite moves. On top of stuff like Brick Break. Like, it gets all the elemental punches. It gets Brick Break, it gets Earthquake, I think. I think it can probably get Poison Jab and stuff. I might be wrong on that. I'd have to double check. But yeah, Electivire is a Pokemon that I am really fond of. I like it less than Electabuzz, but it is by far my favorite electric type introduced in Generation 4. Okay, moving on to Ice type. And this is very easy for me, because Glaceon is my favorite Eevee evolution. It has been for a very long time, and unless in Gen 10 they want to introduce a new one and it overtakes it, Glaceon is going to be my favorite. I still hate that it doesn't get Refrigerate. Like, I wish it got Refrigerate, and I wish it was a little bit faster. But honestly, other than that, I absolutely adore Glaceon. Also, I know its shiny doesn't change a massive amount, but I don't know, I've always just really liked its shiny as well. So yeah, Glaceon wins for that. And Weavile... Weavile is probably winning for Dark-type. Like, I think Weavile is more than likely going to win for Dark-type, spoiler alert. And that's why Glaceon is getting the Ice-type nod, because it isn't going to be eligible anywhere else, whereas Weavile absolutely will be. So, moving on to Fighting types. And I think this is a simple answer. I'm going to go with Toxicroak, because I think Toxicroak just looks really cool. I also like Croagunk a whole lot. Like, I remember the first time I saw Saturn, and he has a Toxicroak, and genuinely, my first thought was just, okay, cool, what's this thing? And then Poison Fighting, I know it's quad weak to Psychic, which isn't exactly ideal, but you know what? It's a Pokemon that looks cool. I think it's definitely, like, I think it's when it was introduced, it makes so much sense why it would carry Poison Jab. And I think it also has, like, pretty solid stats across the board, if I recall correctly. It's not particularly outstanding, it's not a super broken Pokemon or anything, but I've always just really liked Toxicroak. What's its shiny like again? Yeah, its shiny isn't the best. Shiny Staraptor is kind of cool. Shiny Infernape is kind of meh. Okay, you know what, the starters maybe aren't the best for their shinies in this gen, but you know what, I love them all as Pokemon anyway, so who cares? So, moving on, away from fighting types, onto poison, this is Roserade. This is Roserade locked in 100% because second place would be probably Toxicroak, and third place would probably be Drapion, and quite simply, I like Torterra over Toxicroak and Drapion, which therefore means if Roserade is winning here, that means Torterra wins here, and if Roserade won here, it would basically, I had to determine what would be like second place for other poison types and Torterra, to determine where Roserade would be, and Roserade is everything I needed an evolution of Roselia to be. It looks cooler, it is surprisingly fast. Honestly, every single time, I'm always caught off guard by how surprisingly well it takes hits, and it does a ton of damage. Especially benefits from the physical special split, because now, what's this? Shadow Ball is now a special move. Sludge Bomb is now a special move. And I know in Gen 6, I know, if I recall correctly, my one in Gen 6 has the moveset of Energy Ball, Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb, and I think Dazzling Gleam. And honestly, that covers a lot of stuff. I think I kind of switch between Giga Drain and Energy Ball, kind of depend on what I'm... Kind of just dependent, but honestly, Roserade is fantastic, and I love its shiny. Like, I love how its blossoming flowers turn purple and black. I think those look super cool. But yeah, absolutely adore Roserade. Honestly, in contention for my favorite grass type, just period. And honestly, also a strong contender for my favorite poison type, period. So, moving on to ground types. And this is another very simple call, because this one is going to be Gliscor. Gliscor getting the win where Gligar couldn't. because Gligar is okay, so Gligar is a Pokemon that I always thought looked cool but never really used, because it was kind of underwhelming, really. Fortunately, almost every issue I had with it is solved by the existence of Gliscor. Like, I think they're roughly about the same speed-wise, but Gliscor hits harder, takes hits better, and in general... Okay, I should also probably note, Gliscor is a Pokemon that I had in Gen 4 and didn't actually think all that much of. It was actually in Black and White 1 where I started to really appreciate it, Gliscor. And not the way you might expect, because I don't actually like Poison Heal. Because I know that a lot of people just run like Poison Heal Toxicorp. I never liked that strategy, to be honest. But hey, I don't play competitive or anything like that, so just mentioning it. But yeah, it looks really cool. It looks cool. It has a good move pool. It can take hits. It can deal good damage, and it has a really nice shiny. I like its shiny a lot as well. So yeah, Gliscor absolutely takes it for ground type. Honorable mention to Hippowdon, though, because one thing I would like to note about Hippowdon is the first time I ever saw one, I had skipped the trainer in Victory Road who has one. So the first one I saw was actually Bertha's one. No, wait, I had fought the guy in Victory Road who had one. Yeah, I fought the guy in Victory Road who had one, so he has a male Hippowdon. And I hadn't seen both forms of Hippopotas. So when I got to Bertha, and so she sends out a completely different... And she sends out a black Hippowdon, as opposed to, like, the sandy, yellowy brown one, I genuinely thought that she had sent out a shiny. Realistically, looking at how the shiny is, I think it would have been better if the form they gave the female Hippowdon was the shiny, if I'm being totally honest, but hey. So yeah, it's going to be Gliscor. Torterra would be a strong contender if it hadn't already won for Grass type. I feel bad about Mamoswine, because I do like Mamoswine an awful lot, but less than Gliscor, and less than Glaceon and Weavile. And also, Garchomp is reserved for Dragon type, because outside of outside of Legendaries, I don't think there's another Dragon type introduced in Generation 4. Okay, moving on to the Flying type. Okay, so, do we go for... I think this is Honchkrow. I think this has to be Honchkrow. Because Yanmega will probably win for Bug. Staraptor has already won for Normal. And Gliscor has already won for Ground, and I'm not the biggest fan of Drifblim, or Togekiss, or Mantike. I will say, I do like Togekiss. I'll probably explain more of that when I get to Fairy types, but it's never been my big favorite. So now the question is, Honchkrow versus probably either Lopunny or Porygon Z. I think I like Honchkrow over Porygon Z. I remember when I was a kid, I specifically got to the Elite Four, and this was the first time I was using Chimchar on my team. Fun fact, the first time I played Gen 3, I actually did choose Piplup. So, first time I played Gen 4, I picked Piplup, then restarted the game because I thought it was too over-leveled. And, yeah, Honchkrow was a Pokemon I added to the team because I got to the Elite Four, knew there was a Psychic-type trainer in there, and went, oh, I don't have anything to deal with this. And I just found a Murkrow outside of Sunnyshoal City and went, yeah, you know what? This thing has an evolution now, I want to try using it. Because of how it worked in the game, I never got access to Drill Pack on it. But I had, for a long time, I think it was like a level 86 sassy-natured Honchkrow. And honestly, I still just really like Honchkrow. I genuinely think I think it's a Pokemon that if I hadn't used it at that point, I probably wouldn't really think about ever. So, I guess that Honchkrow wins this by kind of being right place, right time. I would say, though, I do also really like Porygon Z, and I like Lopunny a lot, and I like Ambipom. But yeah, I think I'm going to go with Honchkrow for Flying type. Psychic type, I don't need to think about this one at all, it's Gallade. It is Gallade for this, effortlessly, every single time. Like, honestly, I like Gallade over Gardevoir. I think the addition of the fighting type onto it is so cool, and I like how it's just a completely just different version of the evolutionary chain for it. I think that's fantastic for it. And also, generally, it also has a super cool Mega Evolution. I'll probably talk more about that later. But, like, it has one of my favorite Mega Evolutions as well. Oh, and once again, it has a super cool shiny. I think the decision in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire to switch Wally's Gardevoir for a Gallade was genuinely a fantastic one. And yeah, it may be weak to flying now, but honestly, I really appreciate the existence of Gallade. It also has kind of insane move pool. Like, it gets access to so many things. Like, it gets Psycho Cut, it gets Close Combat, it gets, I think it gets Leaf Blade, I'm pretty sure it gets Shadow Claw, I think it gets Slash, I think it gets Aerial Ace, I think it gets, like, all of the Elemental Punches. It gets a lot of stuff, it has a lot of variety, and it still has a decent special attack stat as well. Like, Gallade, the worst thing about Gallade is just trying to get one. Because getting one can be a bit of a pain, because you need, I think it's the Shiny Stone. It's like, you need a Shiny Stone and a male Curlier, and sometimes those can be a bit of a hassle to get. Moving on to Bug type. As much as Kricketune is everyone's favorite meme Pokemon, I do like Mothim. I want to give Mothim a special mention here, because I think Mothim is criminally underrated, and I also do really like its shiny. I think its shiny is kind of nice. However, getting a Mothim is also a pain, because you have to get Burmy. Okay, so you have to get Burmy, and it has to be a male Burmy, because only male Burmy turns into Mothim. Female Burmies turn into Wormadam, and Wormadam, I'll be honest, if I ever do another series of this, but it's my least favorite one, I might have to add new rules and just go Wormadam loses for all of these, because it's garbage. I hate it. Like, Burmy and Wormadam, I don't care about. Mothim, big fan. But the answer is Yanmega. Like, it's the evolved form of Yanma that it desperately needed. Like, Yanma by itself looks cool, I like it, but not as much as Heracross, because, you know, Heracross kind of, got introduced in Gen 2, and until Gen 5, well, actually no, Yanmega was the first, like, kind of competition it had for me. Like, Butterfree and Venomoth, I like them quite a bit. Cypher, I like quite a bit. I think I might like Heracross over them. Gen 3 didn't really add anything new. Yanmega is okay. Gen 5 is where I think Bug type really started. Like, Gen 5 was amazing for Bug types. But back to Yanmega. It looks really cool. I think it's everything that I would have... Actually, I'll quickly switch this to Yanma real quick. Like, I think it's everything I needed an evolution of Yanma to be. Like, it looks like a very natural evolution for this Dragonfly Pokemon. However, I do wish that it had gotten Dragon typing. I would have loved a Bug Dragon, because as far as I can recall, I still don't think we have one 9 generations in. And, yeah, it looks cool, it gets good moves, it's super fast, and just gets even faster because it naturally has speed boost. It gets Bug Buzz, it gets Ancient Power, it gets Air Slash. I don't think it gets access to Quiver Dance in later generations, although I imagine Yanmega with Quiver Dance could do some real damage. Okay, moving on to the Rock type. As soon as they load, I already know what's winning here though. Bonsly is okay. I don't dislike Bonsly, but it evolves into Sudowoodo. Sudowoodo is kind of cool, but it's not my favorite. Yeah, it's not going to be Probopass. Probopass is... I mean, if you had to make an evolution for Nosepass, I think that's about as good as you're getting. Rhyperior, I think, is very cool. I think Rhyperior is cool, but I like Rhydon more, and always have. Bastiodon is cool. It's the exclusive Pokemon for Pokemon Pearl. It's the exclusive fossil in there. It is the defensive option, which means Rampardos is winning, because Rampardos is the offensive option. And, well, if if there's one thing that looking at this chart so far probably tells you, it's that I quite like playing a bit of offense. Like, I just enjoy playing offense a lot more than I enjoy playing defense. Not to say that I can't play defense and some strategies and everything, I just prefer I'm just gonna hit them until they fall down on strategy. Because realistically, it works. It works. Also, Rampardos is a strong contender. It's not my #1 favorite fossil Pokemon, but it is very high up there. Like, it's just a big dinosaur that headbutts things and has like 160 base attack or something. I do wish it was faster, because like similar to how slacking is held back by Truant. Because Slacking is super fast and super powerful, but only gets moved once per turn. Rampardos kind of has a similar thing, where, like, realistically, you would want Skill Swap to get Truant off Slacking, and you'd want a Trick Room set up to help Rampardos. I just wish it was a faster Pokemon. Like, if it was, genuinely, if Rampardos was fast, it would be even higher in my estimations. Moving on to Ghost types. This is going to be Mismagius. Once again, Mismagius won in Gen 2 because it was the only option. Mismagius wins for Gen 4 because, one, I think it looks really cool. I think it looks cute as well. And also, in the generations after it was introduced, it got access to even more stuff. Like, Mystical Fire was a great addition for it. Even though I do think some Pokemon should just have their signature moves and just let them stay signature moves. You know, because that was Delphox's move. I mean, to be fair, I thought Leaf Blade was always just going to be on, like, Grovyle and Sceptile, but, you know, a lot of grass types get that now. I mean, Leafeon gets it. Leafeon gets it, Gallade gets it. Like, it's not the only thing on here that gets it. But yeah, Drifblim is okay. Never been a massive fan of it, though. It's okay. Spiritomb, I have a personal grudge against because I knew how to get Spiritomb. I did not know 32 different people who had the game to help me get one. I mean, I do think it looks cool, and I think its shiny is kind of nice. Like, its shiny being, like, all blues and kind of, like, pinkish purples. I think that looks really cool. And I think Dusknoir is also kind of cool. Similar to with Grovyle and Wigglytuff. Similar to Grovyle and Wigglytuff, if I remembered more of the plot of the second Mystery Dungeon game, I'm sure Dusknoir would probably be a little bit higher. Similarly, Absol would probably get even more points for the story of the first Mystery Dungeon game, if I remembered most of that. Because I know Absol plays an important part in that, and I just don't remember what happens in it exactly. So moving on to Dragon-type, and continuing the Pseudo-Legendaries zone, and also Kingdra. Yeah, this has to be Garchomp, because realistically, all the others are Legendaries, and Garchomp is... Well, Garchomp is Garchomp. It is, like, the Gen 4 Pokemon for a lot of people. Like, it is basically the meme. Like, it is the meme of, like, yeah, this is why Cynthia is the strongest champion for a lot of people. To be totally honest, I do think that that's probably at least a bit blown out of proportion, but Garchomp is absolutely insane in-game. Like, you get it at, like, it evolves at level 4, you can get it as Gible, like, super early on. You can get Gible after the second gym. So you can have Gabite by the third gym. So you can get the Pseudo-Legendary super early on in the game. And then it'll be Garchomp by the time you get to the 8th gym. And also, in the same cave where you can find Gible, you can also find the TM for Earthquake. And it's a ground dragon type, so you have Stab Earthquake on a Pseudo-Legendary Pokemon 2 gyms in. Which is insane. On top of that, Dragon Claw does a lot of damage. Dragon Claw does a ton of damage. Crunch does a ton of damage. If you're open enough to, like, move shooter moves, like Iron Head does a ton of damage. If you're feeling risky, Dragon Rush does a ton of damage. Although Dragon Rush is a move that I don't trust. I don't trust Dragon Rush because it's like, when I use it, never hit. When Cynthia uses it, lands every time, always crit. Like, every time without fail. But yeah, Garchomp is basically a Pokemon that doesn't need an introduction. Similar with Espeon on for Gen 2 Psychic types, like, Garchomp is just that Pokemon. Like, everyone knows Garchomp. So, moving on to Dark types, this is Weavile. This is Weavile's time. So, Skuntank is okay. You know, now that I think about it, there's a good few Pokemon in Dark type in Gen 4. I just only have one weakness. Like, there's 3 Poison Dark types. Also, I tell this story every time, so I'm gonna mention it now as a point in favor of Drapion. I remember the first time and no doubt I will not be the only person who got bamboozled by this as a kid. I remember I got to the Elite Four for the first time, stepped up, fought the first guy, wiped out the rest of his team without any issue, and then he sends out a Drapion, and it's just, what is happening? Why are my fire and flying moves not being super effective on this bug type? And then you learn it's Poison Dark type. He has it because it's the evolved form of Skorupi. It dropped the bug typing and gained Dark. So yeah, that's cool. But honestly, Skuntank is fine, Darkrai, no chance, and is also a legendary. Honchkrow already won, and I said way earlier, Weavile was gonna win here. And honestly, it's so easy to see why. Similar to with similar to with Honchkrow and Gliscor and Miss Magius, and I guess to a degree even Electivire, like, Weavile is the evolution that I think Sneasel desperately needed to possibly even just save it from complete irrelevancy. Like, I know that Sneasel will always probably find a place for itself, but Sneasel was bad in Gen 3 from what I recall. Because it just didn't have, because it is a physical attacker, but both of its stabs and all of its good moves were special. Like, aside from Slash, I think. But honestly, a lot of that gets fixed with Gen 4. You get Night Slash, you get Ice Punch. You get Night Slash, you get Ice Punch, you get access to Shadow Claw, you get Ice Shard. Honestly, even with just those, you're probably going to be able to clear through a lot of stuff. I remember I had a Weavile in Black and White 2 a couple of playthroughs ago, and I went into the fight with Cynthia in the post-game, just set up a couple of Swords Dancers and just swept her team. It was like 10 levels below and just destroyed her. Weavile is so good. I love Weavile. I don't love its shiny though. I think in the earlier games it looks better, where it's just like a light pink, but seeing it in Scarlet and Violet where it's like a hot pink just looks so weird on it. Okay, moving on to Steel types. And honestly, this is a clean sweep, because this is going to be Lucario, and with that, every fighting type evolution chain has had a dub, has had the win in Gen 4. Infernape, Toxicroak, Gallade, and now Lucario. All of those evolutionary lines have now had a win here. And that wasn't planned, but like, it's gonna be Lucario. Lucario, obviously, is like one of the most iconic Pokemon that people know. Fun fact, I actually had a phase where I just hated Lucario completely irrationally. I hated Lucario in the most irrational for a very irrational reason. That reason being, I got the DVD. Like, I got a DVD of Lucario and the Mystery of Mew, the Pokemon movie. I think it was Pokemon movie 8? I want to say it was the 8th one, because I think 9 was Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea. Whichever order. I know 10 was for Rise of Darkrai. Anyway, I got that on DVD, and I was really excited to watch it. And then the DVD didn't work, because, it was like a Region 1 DVD, and I was in like a DVD Region 2, and it wasn't Region 3, so, yeah. I couldn't watch that, and I got very annoyed by it, and just irrationally blamed the Pokemon Lucario for that for some reason. I maybe wasn't the smartest, like, 10 or 11-year-old. But hey, you know what, Lucario in general is super cool. Like, I don't think it's a Pokemon that really needs much of an introduction from me. Like, it's got decent stats across the board, it's pretty versatile. Also, when Gen 6 rolled around, it got an insanely cool Mega Evolution. I think it was I think it was probably the right choice, actually, to give Mega Lucario to the player as, like, your kind of test one, to be like, hey, here's how Mega Evolution works. Okay, moving on to Fairy types, and this is just gonna be Togekiss, because similar to so many others, I think Togekiss saved Togetic from just being a completely irrelevant Pokemon lost to history. However, I do want to give Mime Jr. some credit. I think Mime Jr. is a very cute Pokemon, and I think the one Team Rocket has in the anime is very cute. Good and good. However, it loses a lot of points by virtue of it evolves into Mr. Mime. And also Togekiss just is generally better to have. And also Serene Grace is kind of funny to see with Togekiss. I was kind of happy when I played Platinum for the first time, and it kind of came full circle where Cynthia gives you the Togepi egg, and then at the end of the game, she has a Togekiss on her team. I thought that was really cool. I always liked that. But now, moving on to my favorite starter Pokemon of Generation 4, and... okay, so... Infernape, Empoleon, and Torterra all won for their respective types. This is a no-brainer for me. This is Chimchar. Chimchar will always win here, because Chimchar is my favorite starter Pokemon, and Infernape is my favorite final evolution, and it's just a fire monkey. And I also distinctly remember, I started the game again, and I think at this point it would have been like 10, 11-ish. And I remember as some of my friends insisted, no, Infernape's the worst one. It's weak to water. Torterra gets Earthquake. It'll just lose. No, it didn't. Infernape is actually super good. Fun fact, my level 100 Infernape in Pokemon Diamond, it's still on my save for Pokemon Diamond, still knows Flame Wheel. It still knows Flame Wheel and Mach Punch. I think its other two moves were like Flamethrower and Close Combat, I think. I know it had Close Combat, I think its other move was Flamethrower. But yeah, it's easily Chimchar. Like, it's also Monferno is my favorite middle evolution, and Infernape is my favorite final evolution. But Torterra is also very good. I love Torterra and Empoleon a lot. But yeah, it's Chimchar, and will probably always be Chimchar unless Gen 10 or a later gen really wants to just do something outstanding. So, favorite gimmick form. So, now the following statement may sound weird because I just hyped up Mega Lucario. I think Mega Lucario is cool. Mega Lucario is third place here for me. I do like Mega Lopunny a lot. I do like regular Lopunny a lot. It's a Pokemon that, realistically, I think maybe I should have put for normal type. But at the same time, I know for a fact that if I'm playing through the game, I'm more likely to bring a Staraptor because I know it's going to be more reliable. I know it's going to be able to do more. And most importantly, I know I don't have to rely on the friendship mechanic to get it to evolve. However, fun fact, Baniri, I think, is like one of, if not the only Pokemon that naturally learns frustration, because this little rabbit just hates you when you first catch it, apparently. But yeah, so, my winner for this is Gallade. Similar to how I thought Mega Gardevoir was really cool with how like it gets its full dress and everything, and that turns shiny. I love the cloak. I love the cloak on it, the black and the blue, and then the orange on the blades. I think that just looks so cool. It is a fantastic shiny. And honestly, I just really like the way it looks in general. I'm a big fan of Mega Gallade. It is one of my favorite. It's probably top 5. It's probably top 5, maybe top 4. Although, if you asked me on the right day, I would say Mega Lopunny over it though, because both are really good. Like, I think both are really good, and I kind of go back and forth on them, but right now I think Mega Gallade is my answer here. And now, Legendaries. Also, I do like how they include Primal Dialga from whatchamacallit, Explorers of Time, Explorers of Darkness, because that's the final boss of the main story of that game. Okay, so, now the question becomes, which do I pick? And, honestly, I know it's Giratina, but I don't know which form. I like both forms of it. Like, I like both forms of it, but which one I like more, I think, depends on the day. For now, I'm gonna say Origin form, because it's, you know, the special one that you see in Platinum. And you get the entire thing with the Distortion World leading up to it. And also, I think just the way you see its wings is so much more intimidating, but at the same time, I think I have to go with the original. Like, obviously, it's the same Pokemon regardless, Giratina wins, but I think I'm gonna go with, I think I'm gonna say Altered Form for now. I might change it as I go through, as I get later on in this. But, once again, I gotta tell this story. Because I remember when I was a kid playing Pokemon Diamond for the first time, like, I had beat the game, I went to fly somewhere, and then it was suddenly, what's this new area south of Veilstone City? What is Spring Path? What is Send-Off Spring? What is Turnback Cave? And then obviously, you know, as you do, you make your way through, and you find this cave. I completely ignored the gimmick of the cave because I didn't understand it, and I just walked forward, and forward, and forward, until I eventually got there. To be totally honest, that's still how I approach Turnback Cave now. So, yeah, maybe not the best example. But I then remember this, because I was playing this pretty late at night, and honestly, I can only imagine what the player character would have been thinking at that moment, as you've been walking through this cave for what seems like forever, then you suddenly see just this monster that's like 16 feet tall, just in the shadows, and then it's like, oh, it's a ghost dragon type. I love ghost types and I love dragon types. Getting a ghost dragon is fantastic. I love that. So I think just that, I think just the way you encounter it is why I'm going to say Altered Form. I might change it to Origin Form later, but I think I'm going to stick with Altered Form for now. And with that, we are done with Gen 4. So, just to run through one more time, this absolute powerhouse of a dex and a gen. We have Staraptor, Infernape, Empoleon, Torterra, Electivire, Glaceon, Toxicroak, Roserade, Gliscor, Honchkrow, Gallade, Yanmega, Rampardos. There's Mismagius, Garchomp, Weavile, Lucario, Togekiss, Chimchar, which would eventually become Infernape, Mega Gallade, and Altered Form Giratina. Next time, and with that we're going to end off today's episode here. Next time, we go to Gen 5, my favorite generation of Pokemon, with the Pokemon from the Unova region in Pokemon Black, White, Black 2, and White 2. So, I'm going to end off today's episode here. As always, this will be linked in the description, and you can tell me your favorites in the comments below. Oh, also, feel free to leave a comment or click any of the buttons down below if you feel so inclined, and I will hopefully see you all next time as we head for the Unova region. Okay, thanks for watching. Later.